Chapter 15. Yultir Outskirts, Kalindra. 2 days, 3 traps, 1 ambush, and 23 dead primitives later, the giant Relg warrior, twirling a long wooden rod in his hands, emerged from the jungle. Ryu followed closely behind him, her eyes distant. A bloodied and beaten prey limped along, a defeated look on his face. His consolations were few. Ryu had made it out alive. He also had survived. Tuturi caught a spear during an ambush, but his death, at least, was quick, while Jula, on the other hand, had been unfortunate enough to encounter a Vimith, whose poison precipitated a long and painful death, until the Relg provided mercy, that is. "Civilization," said the Relg. "We made it," replied Prey. "We need to find somewhere to stay, and also, we have to be careful about attracting attention to ourselves, although that's going to be hard to do with you here." "Trillin," Ryu called out. The Relg turned towards the young girl, smiling at his new name. Prey had tried to explain that was the system he was from, but had given up at attempts to get him to pick another name. "Yes?" "I'm hungry and sick of eating all this jungle crap. I want some real food," she stated. "Then let us find some right away," Trillin replied. "Hold on 1 second. I'm going to run and grab you a robe or something to cover up all that metal armor," said Prey, hobbling towards the nearest market. A few minutes later, he came out of the bustling chaos and over towards the alleyway the two were waiting in. "What is that?" asked Trillin. "It's the find of a century," replied Prey. "This right here is a one-of-a-kind Larrywalk skin. Real fur." "What is a Larrywalk?" asked the Relg. "They are like pets on richer planets. It's an oafish race. They don't have much intellectual capabilities, but they are big, strong giants and make very good bodyguards or haulers. If you put this on, you'll fit right in." The Relg cautiously stepped into the large, light blue fur costume, surprised that it fit over his tall stature. Ryu laughed. "You look pretty good, Trillin." "I do," he wondered. "There's a pull string here to cinch the fur together and remove the gaps," Prey said, pulling the string below his neck. "Well, how's it feel?" "Too tight on my wrists," said Trillin, ripping the skin off at the wrist, revealing his red, metal-armored hands. "Well, we can get you some gloves," said Prey, happy at how well his disguise had worked out. "You said you don't sweat, right?" "Correct. My body and suit are fully efficient." "That will work out just fine, then." Ryu sniffed the air. "Can we get some food now?" The bunker was not the typical run-down grimy cafe you would expect to find in the outer regions of Yultir, Kalindra's second most populous city. The unfavorable citizens prowling the nearby streets provided a shield and buffer between the bunker's guests and the power of the law that infiltrated most every other establishment in the city. There was no need for a bouncer. No one entered the bunker that didn't belong there. So when a damaged roughneck, a young girl, and a giant Larrywalk burst through the front door and sat down at a table, they garnered some attention. A Kalindran waitress appeared and set down 3 drinks for the guests. "I'll be right back for your order," she smiled. "Mayor," called a bald, blindfolded man from the other side of the room. He was reclining in the chair, running his fingers across a lighted board, performing a sequence of some kind. The waitress looked over towards him, nervously. "Spare them the tranquilizer. We've fed Narth enough for tonight. More importantly, these are distinguished guests." The waitress's eyes went wide. She swept away the drinks. "My apologies." The Larrywalk was staring at her with glowing, red eyes. She slowly backed away from the creature. The tension in the room went down, and previous conversations resumed. The blindfolded man snapped a finger, and a man sitting on a booth with a pen and pad looked at him, then got up and went over to the newcomers, Observer Mavis, at your service, he said, shaking Prey's hand. Let's see. 2 Surak refugees and a, Lara walk. How can I help you? Prey started to speak, but Trillin set his white-gloved hands on the table and spoke first. Who am I? Who am I? The observer said to himself, smiling. The eternal question. Well, let's see. You're over 7 feet tall, seem to have red eyes, a tinny voice. While normally I might need more to go off of, there aren't really that many races that fit that build. You are Plint. Plint? What is a Plint? Trillin said. The observer felt a strange sensation wash over him. This man wasn't joking around. Who are you? The Lariwak grabbed at something underneath the neck and sneakily lifted the hood off, revealing the surreal red metal mask underneath. A Relg, Mavis whispered. Trillin retightened his costume. Prey was glaring at the Relg. Please, said the observer. I didn't break any federal laws. This isn't about last week's meeting, is it? Listen, that veneer was providing valuable information to the archives. It was official business. I would have informed the Federation had I known it would be a problem. Please, I beg you. Mavis was confused. He didn't know of any Relg to talk to their targets. He also didn't know them to dress in disguises. They were the pride of the Federation's security forces. I want you to tell me everything you know about the Relg. Who are they? What happened to them? Said Trillin. Do you mean, can you really? Can you think? Asked the observer. Yes, replied the Relg. Please begin. A thinking Relg? What in the world? Mavis said out loud. Let me see here. Relg. Well, Relg are from the planets Sticker and Ater in the Trillin Mare system. Trillin, the Relg smiled. At least it sounded like he smiled. That's my name. Trillin. After the first Relg, Sor King? I didn't know Relg had names anymore. I do. I'm special. I see, replied the observer. Well, the Relg were an ultra-powerful race, Tier 1 warriors. They conquered much territory and made a fairly considerable impact on the course of universe history. The Relg are one of the few ancient lines that survived into the modern day. They existed during the period of the Krishish, ancient Drazians, and the Hyligans, perhaps even the Gunthians. That period of time has a lot of uncertainties. The Lariwak was listening intently. Mavis saw that he was absorbing this information for the first time. The waitress came back and brought 4 bowls of soup. Prey and Ryu dug in, while the Relg and Observer pushed their dishes forward, and Mavis continued. The Relg finally were defeated, not but 200 years ago. You can have all the physical strength in the world, but sometimes all it takes is an idea to take down a superpower. That is what happened with the Relg. The Galans, a relatively young race at the time, were in the Relg's current path of destruction and found a way to not only defeat the Relg, but to harness them and wield their power. The Galans made a deal with the greedy Krishish, who decided to betray the Relg and his own people, who had long been allied with the Relg. See, the Krishish manufactured Relg armor and weaponry. The traitor snuck an extra device into the manufacture lines, an inhibitor. The Galans were wise and waited over 50 years until the entire Relg fighting force had been transitioned to the new armor. Then, overnight, they activated the inhibitor chips, which embedded themselves into the Relg and became part of them. The inhibitors effectively shut down all receptors of free thought and made them desire to only fulfill commands. Patience and cunning won the Galans a war without ever having to actually fight it. The observer watched the Relg's eyes for some kind of reaction. He didn't see any noticeable change. And my people now? What has happened to them? Shortly after the inhibitors, the Galens became worried that the Relg might eventually become freed and seek their revenge. So they decided to thin the herd a bit and made Sicker wage war against Atur. It was a widely broadcasted event. In the end, Sicker destroyed the population of Atur, but only a minimal population of Relg survived on Sicker, which suited the Galens' needs finely. They decided they would use the remaining battle-proven Relg, the best of the best, as their own private army and fighting force. There is a small population of female Relg that are imprisoned and used for producing future generations. You are probably a product of that, unless, of course, you are over 200 years old, which is entirely possible since your race gets stronger and healthier in age. The saying goes that the Relg can only ever die in battle, but I have not heard of a Relg dying since the days of the Drazians. These Drazians, they can fight Relg, asked Trillin. Oh, they're mostly dead. Drazia was destroyed. How can they fight Relg? The Drazian people used to have a mental connection to the environment around them. Some rare Drazians had a very strong connection. They could sometimes control the environment. I'm sure you are familiar with the Relg effect. The Relg use mental disruption on their opponents. A sword swings one way, but the opponent sees it swinging the other, and they fail to counter it. The Drazian mind, however, is immune to this effect. They can, in fact, counter it by shifting the environment around them, and thus disrupting the Relg. Again, there were very few who had such powerful control over it. Prochoron, the strongest of them, reportedly killed 632 Relg, which is an unfathomable number. Aside from him, a few others managed to take out a couple Relg here and there, but nothing on that scale. Do these Drazians have white hair and eyes with 2 rings? Mavis was taken back a bit. Well, yes, some do. The double-ringed eye trait is unique to Drazians alone. As for the hair color, they can have many different colors, but yes, white is possible. And how many are left? Inquired Trillin. Like I said, not many. Their planet was destroyed. Only those that were visiting or imprisoned on other planets survived the initial blow. Most of those prisoners and tourists have been systematically purged by now. Chiron, the last Ray Lord, is alive and working for the Federation now. I fought one, said the Relg. A Drazian? Yes. I only remember bits and pieces, flashes here and there. I remember that he had a strange dagger. A dagger? Yes, it was black. It had a triangular blade and a strange air around it. Well, I could describe plenty of blades, but there is one type in particular it could have been. A Krishish wrench. That's their nickname. Do continue, said Trillin, intrigued. Long before the Krishish began making your armor, they made a triangular blade like the one you described. It was their elite soldiers' weapon of choice. It can inflict nearly unlimited pain and suffering on a target. It is said only a Krishish could use the blade without the effects rebounding on themselves. The Relg untied his costume and pulled the middle seam wide, exposing his fried breastplate. It did this to me. The observer stared fascinated. Interesting. Most interesting. Where did this Drazian find a Krishish wrench? Look at that armor, like it was struck by lightning. A sudden realization washed over the observer. He sat up straight and stared grimly at the Relg. You are uninhibited. Do you know what that means? That I am free. It means that the Federation will do anything and everything to stop you. A loose Relg is something they cannot and will not allow. I can fight them. They will send more Relg to take you out. You can't take them all on, but there is a possibility that they are unaware of your existence. How did you get on this planet? I don't know, replied the Relg. This time, it was Prey's turn to speak. He was on our planet. We came from Faradun. There was a gate to the southern jungles. Faradun? Exclaimed Mavis. I thought the Siak presence there was eliminated. Planet rendered uninhabitable. That's a story for another time. I found this relg next to the gate. I think he had come through it. I thought he was dead, but I guess not, said Prey, spinning the ladle around his now empty soup bowl. Rue had finished hers as well, and had fallen asleep next to Trillin, laying her head against the soft Larawak fur. Well, you need to quit talking in public, stay away from the authorities, and get your armor patched up, said Mavis. Where's the nearest Krishish repair shop? Said the relg, followed by a strange noise. Was that a laugh? The observer sat in shock. The Krishish are dead and gone. How did they die? Asked the relg. You killed them. The relg annihilated the Krishish. The Krishish were not happy with the Galans, and, well, the Galans decided to use a new army to get rid of them. Oh, replied the relg. There was a pause as they sat for a few moments. The other guests were talking quietly to one another, and their conversations were nothing more than a murmur. Trillin quickly discovered, however, that he could hear anything he wanted, and tuned in, moving from conversation to conversation. Most of the inhabitants were discussing the end of some great siege and something that had changed. The relg tried to tune in to the blindfolded man, but gave it up after a sharp screeching and a strange desire to try a Parochian double-leafed cake, which truly was strange, since relg do not eat. So how can I fix my armor? Trillin asked the observer. I know a place that will make you a custom mold for it. It will be ornamental, of course, and only serve temporarily. It will not be able to withstand any force. But the hope is that you will look more like an inhibited relg, and there will be less cause to ever question your authenticity. It is a good plan, replied the relg. Thanks, smiled the observer. We should be on our way. I'll take you there now, but I have one last question. The relg stared. Why, or rather, how did you choose this place, the bunker, among the rest? Asked the observer. The relg thought for a few seconds. I asked the ground, and it showed me the way, same as always.